a Ween podcast with Shane and Rory.
Hey, what's up? This is Shane.
And this is Rory.
And this is Weencast. We welcome you to a new episode.
Yes, hello everybody. How is everybody on this beautiful summer evening?
Yeah, I hope your summer is going good. And speaking of which, we have a little something that we want to bring up before we get into it.
Hells yeah, it's all about the summer, yo.
Which is our new summer contest. So this will be the second annual summer contest.
It's the 2021 Weencast Megatacular fan favorite summer contest.
Hells yeah, man.
The contest went so well in 2020, we had to bring it back. But this year, we're asking you to just tell us about your favorite Ween song.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that, there was a few people last time that were sort of like a little bit like, oh, well, what should I talk about? Because we kind of left it open to just like tell any Ween story that you want. So this way, I kind of feel like it's a little bit more like focused. And also, you don't have to be like a big Ween fan. I think everybody who's like a music fan can at least say their favorite Ween song. So if you've got friends or whatever who are just sort of like casual, Ween fans, have them join in on this. Anybody can enter.
Yeah, totally. And last year, West Brandywine Woodworks provided a beautiful cutting board that was emblazoned with a boognish for the winner of the contest. And we had a lot of entries and it was a lot of fun. So we're bringing West Brandywine Woodworks back. This year, they're going to make beautiful boognish emblazoned beer coasters. So the winner is going to get some awesome boognish beer coasters.
And they make some awesome coasters. These are beautiful.
Yeah, dude. Your cold beverage will enjoy sitting on the boognish.
So this year is going to be a little bit different. So basically, all you have to do to enter, you don't have to worry about making your own WAV file or MP3 or anything like that. Just leave us a message on Anchor. So all you have to do is go to anchor.fm/Weencast podcast, and there's a button right there that says message. You hit the button, you tell your story. Please keep it 5 minutes or less, and that's it. And you have until Labor Day to get your entry in.
Yeah, dude. Simple. Easy peasy.
You don't even have to download the Anchor app. You can just do it on your phone or your laptop. You don't even need to download a new app if you don't have Anchor already. So It's as easy as it could possibly get.
Yeah, and it's like a phone message. You're leaving the message. You're not typing anything. You're just going to say something.
Yeah, man.
So when you click on leave the message, just be ready to tell your story.
Totally.
And then I imagine it takes you through, you can delete it and retry and stuff like that, I'm sure.
No, you do it once, that's it.
Yeah. You sign your soul over for a donut. We'd love to hear from you, so just leave some messages, even if it's just to say hello. I mean, ultimately, we'll just love to hear from you, but that won't get you in the contest.
Right. Yeah, you can leave a message and say whatever you want, but you have to tell your favorite Ween song story to get into the contest.
Anyway, that's awesome. Excited to see some entries. And then we'll have sometime later in September, at the official end of summer, is when we expect to broadcast to announce the winner.
Should be shortly after Labor Day. So you have until
a little bit, sometime, probably the second half of September.
Right.
Honestly, by the time it airs is what I mean.
Is your cutting board dried out, ugly, and lacking luster? Do your tables have too many water rings to count and need a fix? Are your kitchen utensils old and damaged? Maybe you just want to add a little bit of natural wood beauty to your home. Whatever it is, you can count on West Brandywine Woodworks to provide for you. We make high-quality, custom hardwood items for your home. From cutting boards to shelving, West Brandywine Woodworks has you covered. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. Mention Weencast when you order for 21% off. So give us a like and a follow, and don't forget to mention Weencast for 21% off your order. West Brandywine Woodworks. Custom simplicity for your home.
So for this episode, we are going back to the beginning of 2002.
Yes, so this is now the third show from 2002 that one of us had attended. And this time we're heading down to North Carolina, baby.
Wow. Pretty far for one of our shows, especially from back then.
Yes, dude, this was actually the longest road trip to date for Ween, ratcheting it up for this show. So yeah, this is April 19th, 2002, the Thomas Wolfe Auditorium in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah, man.
Write it down. This was a great show. We'll get into it.
This is a bit of a flip-flop because this is one that you went to that I wasn't along. And if I could just comment real quick, I feel like this was sort of the start of Rory taking his revenge on me for going to a few shows that he wasn't at. So now basically this is sort of the start of we're going on this road trip and I don't know if I was invited, quite frankly. I'm sorry, just saying.
Oh, dude. That's rough to say that. I'm pretty sure you just couldn't make it. It was just too much, too far.
Dude,
and you had just gone to a couple shows. So I'm pretty sure
kidding.
You were just okay with it.
I'm totally glad that you guys went down for this show and excited to hear the stories.
Yeah, dude. I'm excited for you to pepper me with questions. I went with Amy, who was my girlfriend at the time. She's now my wife. So this show's actually kind of near the very beginning of our relationship, actually, interestingly enough. And Amy, it turned out, one of the things we had in common was that she's a big Ween head too. So this is actually her first show. And that was part of the draw was when we saw the shows on the calendar. She was just really gung-ho about going. And so it was cool that she was excited about taking the road trip. And we came down from State College. And so that was probably about 9+ hours. I mean, probably more like 10 hours or more once you can consider we probably stopped a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely longest road trip at the time. And there's a little bit of backstory to it as far as there's also an April 20th show. So this is, I'm sorry, let's back up a little bit. The Thomas Wolfe Auditorium show is the tour opener. So Ween is doing in the middle of a, what is it, dude? Like eight stops? Did you count how many stops on the tour?
Something like that. I mean, this is the last couple of shows that we talked about were kind of like them getting ready for the year. And then this is the first like full on show.
Yeah. So they had 3 one-off shows earlier in the year, like you said, just sort of getting ready, just doing little shows and stuff that were all great. And you were at 2 of those. So we have episodes you can check out to hear about those ones. But yeah, this is the first one that's like for a tour.
Right.
But a short tour. This is only, like a week and a half or so.
You were right. So there's 8 shows, and I'm just looking at the dates here real quick. I think it's over the course of 9 days. So basically one of those days they have off. So there's a show the 19th, 20th, the 21st. There's no show on the 22nd, and then 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, and 27th.
Yeah, so Amy and I went to the 19th and the 20th. We almost were going to go to the 21st, but just we're kind of like, well, we couldn't really put it together. But then we also went to the show on the 27th with you and some other people. So you did end up getting to another show this year.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that another day. So, but when we saw the 420 show on the calendar, first off, I was working at this pizza shop in State College called the Goppers. And, it's kind of like a hippie pizza shop. So when we saw the tour dates pop up, and when I saw the show's 420, I immediately hearkened back to the Rutgers show from 2 years prior. And of course, that's a legendary show for us. Right?
Oh, yeah, man. And
so I was immediately just thinking like, oh my God, 420, we got to get to the 420 show. That's just going to be an awesome show. And so we actually had a huge pilgrimage of employees from the Goppers, possibly double digits. I gotta go back and count them up, but we had a huge contingent come down from State College for the 420 show. And Amy and I just decided, you know what? We're going to rock and roll and go the night before so we can hit up both shows.
That's so awesome, dude. I mean,
yeah, dude. And this would have been Maybe. So Amy and I were only together for a few months at this point. So this might have been our biggest like trip together at that point too, so
It's cool, man.
that was cool. It was like, our burgeoning relationship growing with Ween. Probably wouldn't have been able to do it if she didn't. Well, yeah, I would if she wasn't going to go. I didn't have a car. So I needed her to go, but she was excited. She was excited nonetheless. So anyway, yeah, the Thomas Wolfe Auditorium is where the venue was. To be honest, I don't remember too much about the auditorium. Diener does his famous Diener's tour diary. So Diener actually says that there's about 2,000 people in attendance. That's a pretty big indoor crowd for Ween in 2002. So I know that it's a pretty big venue, but I was up front. We were maybe first or second row, like it was standing room only, but we were basically like within arm's reach of the, the railing or whatever that was by the stage. I do remember that we were way up front. Like I definitely got us way up front.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, dude. So we were on like these like wooden risers. Maybe the floor wasn't level or something. So they had these wooden, platforms set up probably just a couple inches off the ground that people stood on that were in the front. And then everyone else were in like seats, like an auditorium. But yeah, and that reminds me, I want to make a correction quick, Shane, if I may.
Okay.
So the last episode, I made a statement that a lot of the shows on this year were like this year was like a lot of smaller like theater auditorium venues. And I was mistaken in using the word smaller because clearly a venue like this is not exactly smaller. A lot of these venues that we went to were like theaters or like auditorium style. But clearly some of these venues are quite large. So that's kind of crazy. Some of them are small too. I think the Guilford College show on 420, that was a much smaller like auditorium. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think that, this is an area of the country, where they weren't there a whole lot. So like them going down south at that point in their career, it's like they're going to play some, bigger places because there probably wasn't that many shows that were down south like that,
Well, Diener comments in the diary that just the year prior, they play at the venue Be Here Now.
Right.
Which is a weird name for a venue, if you ask me. But anyway. And he says that held about 300. He says that holds 350. So yeah, so this year in Asheville, I mean, they blew up. And Asheville's kind of known as a hippie town. And it was definitely it's much more hipster now. But it was definitely like a dirty hippie town back then. I remember from our interview with Claude that people should check out that episode because the interview's awesome. But Claude talks about, because he lives down in Asheville now, and he talked about how the earlier times they had gone to play in Asheville, that it was a little bit like a burned out, like kind of third world country sort of downtown. And so that would have been kind of like, this is the tail end of that era before the real revival in Asheville happened.
Right. Good point.
So yeah, dude, that takes us up to the show, I think.
Okay.
Do you want to read the set list?
Yeah, please. I'd be happy to. Okay. Buckingham Green, Spinal Meningitis, Now I'm Freaking Out, The Stallion Part 3, Bananas and Blow, Take Me Away, Don't Get Too Close to My Fantasy, Freedom of 76, Voodoo Lady, Mutilated Lips, Exactly Where I'm At, Roses Are Free, Piss Up a Rope, Ooh Va La, The Mollusk, Waving My Dick in the Wind, Touch My Tutor, Dr. Rock, Pandy Fackler, Mr. Would You Please Help My Pony, Pumpin' for the Man, The Going Gets Tough from the Get-Go, I'll Be Your Johnny on the Spot, Don't Sweat It, Zoloft, Someday, HIV Song, and then for the encore, You Fucked Up, Sketches of Winkle, Never Squeal on the Pusher, I Can't Put My Finger on It.
Nice.
So that's a nice set list, man.
Yeah, dude.
And just a couple of things real quick. So if you look on Brown Bass, it will show you where one song just sort of, bleeds into the next, a la Grateful Dead style. So I'll Be Your Johnny on the Spot goes right into Don't Sweat It. And then they actually have listed Never Squeal on the Pusher into drums.
Yes.
And then back to Never Squeal on the Pusher. So, I mean, I think that's kind of common, like what they started to do with that song. But it's just cool. It's actually like broken down on brown bass.
Yeah, dude. Well, that's pretty awesome because, you know, we one of the things we talk about is rarities. And the drums, first off, Never Squeal on the Pusher has only ever been played 131 times. So that's pretty rare, pretty uncommon. Not the rarest for this show, but the drum sequence I was telling you that before the show, when we were prepping, that the moments that Claude does enough drum to necessitate brown bass putting it on as a separate like track on the set list is actually quite a rare thing. So that's pretty awesome. And Claude's cool. It's definitely a down and dirty drum solo for Never Squeal. And that happened. So the drums, for example, is 58 times, total.
It's cool, man.
It's not every day that, Claude goes on a big enough drum solo that it's considered its own track. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, dude. It's a show that my memory of it was not as grand as what I experienced when I re-listened to it. I felt like this was a really good show, and I didn't really remember it. It just sort of bled together with the next day and whatnot. So,
yeah, man. I mean, I think that happens a lot. That happens to me too. If you're not like listening to the bootleg a lot, like after the fact, you kind of, at least from back then, when I say bootleg, I mean from that, time period. If you're not listening to the show after it happened at least a few times to sort of like get familiar with it and, what happened that night, you can sort of like lose that stuff in your memory.
Yeah. So anyway, start from the top. And I want to say first off, Buckingham Green is an awesome opener.
Oh, yeah.
That's an epic opener. That's, it's a really heavily played Ween song. So obviously I get it. It's sort of an easy answer kind of thing. But it's epic and it rocks. And I love that they open with that. I want to contrast this opener with the previous show, Sterling Hotel, that you attended. They open with Ice Castles, followed up with Golden Eel, and then what Diener was talking about. And this show goes Buckingham Green, Spinal Meningitis, and then Now I'm Freaking Out.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a more rock and roll like opening for this show. Like that's,
mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, dude. No, and right before Spinal Meningitis, I think it's Diener is like Asheville, and it's kind of like he's just like saying it in a way that he's kind of like shit is about to get brown.
I have to wonder if he might have been referencing the Frank Zappa 200 Motels Centerville, but I'm reaching on that one.
Oh, that's a great freaking, oh man. We should give Aaron more credit than he deserves and just assume that's where he was drawing that from.
I don't know. That's reaching, but yeah. I'll throw it out there.
But yeah, dude, it's just it's such an upbeat. For the whole show's really upbeat, a hard rockin' Ween show. This doesn't feature a lot of like slower, kind of stuff. And it certainly starts that way, right in your face, and so I love it. And then, Now I'm Freaking Out, 93 times total. So that's a pretty rare track.
So I just have to say, like, first of all, I love that song. I think that might be, if it's not my favorite of sort of like the unreleased songs, it's got to be in like my top 5. That's definitely way up there for me.
Left on a train for a place not far from here. The 12th man said thy work shall be done. And I'm freaking out. And I'm freaking out. And I'm freaking out. And I'm freaking out. Shopping up the path and the red rose.
But I think there's one of the Philly shows, I think it might have been like New Year's 99 or 98. I can't remember. The placement of the song is almost like exactly the same. It's like the second or third one, almost right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they might do it on purpose because they're trying to keep the show like upbeat and like, okay, get it going, but also make sure that the crowd knows there's going to be shit tonight you might not have heard before. You know what I mean? Now there again, maybe I'm reaching a little bit, but I think it's just a great example of one of those songs that's just that oddball that probably not that many people, especially back at that point, were familiar with because it wasn't on one of the records.
Oh yeah, totally.
And it's like you got to get that through early on, that it's like this isn't all going to be shit from the CDs. There's going to be some stuff tonight that you might not know what it is.
Yeah. Totally.
So I think that does a great job of like all of those things. It's upbeat enough just to keep you like, even if you wouldn't know what it was, you're not going to like space out and be like, "Oh, what the fuck is this, dumb shit." It's upbeat and like, jamming enough to just, get you like, head bobbing or whatever. But it's also like throws a monkey wrench into the works.
Totally.
Because you got to have at least some people being like, "What the fuck song is that?"
Totally.
So just throwing that out there.
Also, our buddy Corey used to play Now I'm Freaking Out on guitar in high school.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's that.
Cool.
But yeah, everything you said about it, it's a great track. Another early one, Voodoo Lady. I feel like I hype up Voodoo Lady all the time. I don't know why that is, because I get it. It's like a common song. But dude, they rock the shit out of this one.
Yeah, man. I mean, I love like, the Voodoo Lady from like this like early 2000 era, time period, because most of the time Diener has the talk box, aka the tube, and I'll bring it up every time and I'm going to say the fucking tube every time that he's on the fucking tube. You know what I'm talking about? Because it's just fucking badass, dude.
Yeah.
I love the fucking tube.
Well, and also a lot of the renditions from this time period that we've heard have managed to be sort of different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
In a noticeable way, and that's not necessarily true for every time they play a song live.
Yeah. It's like it's always going to be like a little different, and it's true. It fucking rocks on the show.
Yeah, dude, there's no Kiss interlude on this one, so that's not in it, which, it's all good. But Diener just jams the shit out of it, and then like you said, the talk box is involved. So Voodoo Lady's pretty awesome. Another one on here that is jammed out that I feel like is not usually jammed out that much is Roses Are Free.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They totally jam that out. So again, I know that's like a common song, but they totally jam it out. Totally jam that one out. I felt like the ending of it is almost like the cacophony of the orchestra in the Beatles' Day in the Life. But not like an orchestra, but it was more like, crazy Ween music, jamming sounds. It's funny. It just sort of made me think of that as it like wrapped up. It kind of had this long, like extended, like, just jamming out stuff, sort of to draw it out, that was kind of cool.
Yeah. They bring it all to that like big, like ending.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I thought that was cool. And trust me, like I sort of never dreamed I would even bring up a Roses Are Free, because it's totally like one of my least favorite Ween songs. Not that, that means it's bad, but it's just, someone has to be on the bottom of the list. Just like, Savoy Truffle, dude, for the Beatles. Like, sorry, dude. Savoy Truffle, I'm not into it.
I don't know. I still love Roses Are Free, even with the whole fish thing.
Well, I didn't bring up fish. And that's not really why I have it near the bottom of my list.
Okay, then.
No, dude, I'm serious. I'm just not as into it. It's all good.
No, it's all good.
It's all good. But this in particular is a pretty cool version.
Totally.
So, what else we got going on in this show?
So, Waving My Dick in the Wind almost bleeds right into Touch My Tutor. I think there might be like just a 1 second like gap, and it's just straight to Touch My Tutor, like dun dun dun, right? You know.
Yeah, I love it. It sort of presages later on that happens with Johnny on the Spot and Don't Sweat It.
Right.
Because Waving My Dick in the Wind and Johnny on the Spot are almost like the same song, sort of, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that those are the two that run into like other songs during this show. Which actually happens again with the drum sort of thing. Like they do a lot of like, this show features a lot of like jamming. And this is a good example of it. You know, they don't necessarily jam out the songs, but they kind of blend them together, kind of like make it like a big like jam out combined.
Mm-hmm.
And Pandy Fackler is Glenn, once again, is just awesome. Jeaner, before this song is like, what the fuck, fuckers? So we got Glenn Mcclellan back. So he totally makes like an official nod to the end of the Glenn hiatus, right? And that's something obviously we've talked a lot about. But Glenn's back. He's been back all year. This isn't his first show back. But he definitely lets the crowd know about it. And then he says, thank you for the red shirt. I guess someone threw up a red shirt.
Someone must have given him a red shirt. Yeah, right on.
That's nice. And dude, Glenn is like pounding on the keys. He is rocking Pandy Fackler. Like, I love me some Glenn. And Pandy Fackler's jammed out pretty hard on this one.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Totes.
Glenn rules.
Yeah, Glenn rules. He's pretty awesome. I like Going Gets Tough from the get-go.
Smack down in the middle of a situation over the rifles. Tables turned, lessons learned, you get burned for playing by the rules. Time's lost, that's the cost, go brother, you got shit on in the end. Scrape for a dollar, roll dice, mine and learn the same lessons once again. The goal gets done from the get-go, go,
Dude, I think that, you know, I want to say I had this show as a bootleg. Maybe you had told me like how good it was, and I think I like, you know, got it from somebody that got a copy of it. And, you know, if you look at Brown Bass, I think they were playing that pretty regularly through like the year of 2001. But I don't know, something about this show and that song like jumps out in my brain for whatever reason. But I love fucking Going Gets Tough from the get-go, especially from this like time period, like I said, because I think like between 2001, 2002, they had just sort of like brought it back to life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you look on Brown Bass, I think it skips from, you know, like 90, 93, 94, you know, like the DAT tape era to like 2001. And I don't know, I think maybe this might have been one of the first shows where you or I had gone and that was played.
You know, another thing I guess I could go back and check. I'm not sure if I've seen it before, because we still haven't. I don't know exactly what show this is for me. It's around number 10 or so. So we haven't seen too many shows yet.
Yeah, there might have been like one other show that I had seen that, you know, we both had seen where they played it. But I mean, it's still pretty like early in terms of them sort of like unearthing it. You know, there
Totally.
I don't think it was played at all through like 98, 99, 2000. So that definitely like jumps out at me, you know, this time period for that song.
Yeah, and they're just having some fun with it, and like there's like they're putting like heavy echo on and stuff, and so that's pretty cool. It's kind of almost like a little interlude in that sense.
And you just got to look to Dave, aka Double Dip, for the bass. You know what I mean? Do 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 do.
Yeah. Dave. Yeah. Shout out to Dave. Good call. Yeah, dude. And then one of the big highlights for the show, Johnny on the Spot, is pretty hardcore. And it kind of ends with this like sirens and explosions, and they're just like jamming it out hard. Johnny on the Spot is jammed out really, really hard of this.
Yeah.
And then it just goes right into Don't Sweat It.
Right. So basically it's just like them still doing like the sirens and like and stuff like that and just, jamming it out. And then Claude just starts the drums for Don't Sweat It.
Yeah.
Just out of boom, boom, doo, doo, doo. It's like, yeah, dude, just right into it. It's like, yeah.
It was pretty fucking cool. And Don't Sweat It is only 69 times total. So definitely a rare track. So dude, that's probably the big highlight of the whole show for me. Cause that's Don't Sweat It's cool. And it's kind of turns it into like a, 10, 15 minute long, like Zoloft is right after that too. And Someday. And so it's kind of like a nice long, like jammed out part of the show. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Great little bit there between those two songs.
Yeah, totally. They end the first set with the HIV song, which is kind of a weird song to end the first set with, I guess. But they come back out and they do their encore. And the highlights for the encore, Never Squeal on the Pusher, is I would say that's the other like big highlight for this show. Mm-hmm. Like that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, Glenn in full effect. And as we already mentioned, Claude going on like just like a massive drum solo. I mean, it was pretty awesome.
Totally, man. And there again, I think that's kind of early for that. I think maybe they were doing Never Squeal on the Pusher, but that's early for them turning it into like that long jam.
Yeah.
So that's really sweet.
Yeah, and that's another one. I mean, only 131 times, so that's also pretty uncommon song live. Certainly when you add in the drums to it. I mean, it definitely makes it more of like a moment,
Right. And I love I Can't Put My Finger on It as the very last one. Like that's a really cool one to just go out, all together on. He does the chant in the beginning.
Yeah, totally.
So there's nothing really all that different about it, but just the fact that that's what they end the whole night with, it's like, okay, that's pretty cool.
It kind of it's funny because it's such a bit upbeat rock and roll show, and that is a song that kind of brings it down, kind of calms it down, chills it out to like send us home.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the encore is pretty thrashing. I mean, the rest of the encore,
it's rockin'. Yeah, it's very rockin'.
Sketches of Winkle, Never Squeal. I mean, that's much more rockin'. So it kind of is one of the few moments. Someday's another one, and Ooh La. There's only a few kind of those slower moments in the show. It kind of ends that way. It's pretty cool. And I tend to think of I Can't Put My Finger on It as a song that shows up in the middle of a show, but it has been a closer, and it's a good closer. Like it's a good one. And again, like you said, it's not like exceptional in the sense of it's a standard version of the song with the extended intro, but it's still pretty sweet,
Yeah, or it might not be like the very last song, but in sort of like that encore, 3 or 4 or 5 songs in that block.
I guess I usually think of it as one of those songs that's like just buried in the first set, where it's like you kind of know when you get to it, it's like a jam in the middle of the first set, and then shit's brown. But maybe I'm just like thinking of like a couple shows I went to. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Hey man, it's another one of those songs you could put it anywhere and it's like, you gonna complain? Fuck no.
No, dude. I'll listen to it. I'll enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Chocolate and Cheese has a lot of great tracks, dude. Even though many of them are ones that are played all the time. I mean,
well,
get over it, people. They're good tracks.
And but that's another good example of one that's completely different from the way it's played on the CD. You know? Totally.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
So yeah, we're used to it the way it's played live, but somebody who's never seen him before, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. You know, some other things to point out. It was funny because we were, you know, within arm's reach of like the stage basically on these risers. And so when Ween disappears, you know, for the first set, we're stomping and pounding on the riser, stomping and pounding. And I can imagine that even more people stormed down from the 2,000 people in the auditorium, you know, came down to the front rows. And we totally broke the risers. And we're like, so it's like suddenly like in the middle of it, it's like crack, boom kind of thing. And it's like, and then they're just like uneven. You know, like no one got hurt. It wasn't like really high up or anything. But then suddenly it was like uneven and everyone's like stumbling around because it's like, because it's kind of broken.
Dude, that is just like the craziest little story. I mean, I know you've told me that a few times over the years, and I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, it sounds to me like it was just a bad idea from the get-go. Like, why would you put something down on the floor like that? I don't get it, you know? But
yeah, and you know, it's so long ago, I can't remember exactly what it looked like or what the deal was, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
But all I know is we were standing, it was something that kind of, we had standing on something that put us off the regular ground, and then it busted later. Because there's so many people. I mean, what were they expecting? All these Ween heads want to see an encore.
Yeah, right, you know?
So.
Weird.
Yeah, dude.
Craziness, man. Well, I think basically just looking at the entire set list, I mean, you know, for us, we already talked about two of the other shows from 2002, which, you know, again, were sort of like the warm-up shows, and this is the first one that they're like, you know, this is a full-on show. It's the first one of this tour. And, you know, you have those, we didn't even really bring them up, you have those sort of like new songs still that, you know, we're looking at Brown Bass as we're, you know, sort of going over this, and, you know, it's like songs from Quebec 1, okay? But you also have Ooh-Va-La, which was new, and then Someday. Mm-hmm. So you really have three. I'm trying to think if there's anything else for this show. You have three sort of like brand new songs.
Yeah. So I know the first show of the year, they did a lot of like new stuff. But yeah, they give you a little taste of it, you know, Zoloft. And it's interesting that Zoloft is already evolving from what you heard at the earlier shows. Because you've heard Zoloft already, well, you weren't at this show, but this is already like the third time one of us heard Zoloft this year. And since I've now having listened to them all, it's totally more evolved now. Like they're figuring it out, like figuring out how they want to play it live.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like they're not, again, this is a full on show. You know, this is not something where it's like, okay, it's a bar and we're just going to dick around, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, they have to sort of ease you into it. Mm-hmm. You know, they have to ease the bigger crowds into that new stuff. You know, there again, I think that's why when you look at the end of the first set, it's like Zoloft, Someday, HIV song. They probably threw that in there because it was something like you would recognize. Mm-hmm. After being hit up with two ones that, you know, most people wouldn't. Totally.
You know, it's interesting, though, because even though there are the three new songs, I feel like it's mostly like a throwback show.
Right.
There's a few White Pepper songs on there as well. But otherwise, it's all from like 1996 or earlier. So it's starting to be a little bit of a throwback at this point. Obviously, Chocolate and Cheese is heavy. That's pretty standard for most shows. And same with the Mollusk. I mean, you just have to accept that most shows are going to have those, you know, heavily represented. But like then besides that, a lot of older stuff, you know. Now I'm Freakin Out is an older unreleased. You got Pure Guava has 5 songs on this show. I think The Pod has 3. So they're decently represented, you know. This show has a good amount of variety to it. Although Golden Country Greats once again only has one represent. So that's kind of, I think that's definitely an album that just doesn't get a lot of play. I think it's because it's from the country band, you know, like they can't just whip that out all the time.
Yeah, I mean, this is back before any of those other songs besides like Piss Up a Rope ever got
Japanese
any
Cowboy.
and you know, right, and Mr. Richard
Those
Smoke.
are the
It was
three.
really those, yeah.
That you
Yeah,
hear the most.
And Japanese Cowboy was even a little bit more rare
Yes,
than
you're right.
the other
You're
two.
right. You're right. But it's beautiful.
You know.
I love it.
But, you know, that's like way before they started just playing like You Were the Fool as like, you know, just the 5-piece band. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like before they started like bringing back some of those songs. So it's sort of that like dark period, the dark age for the country songs, unfortunately.
Yeah. Although we did hear You Were the Fool, you know, at the Conduit at the beginning of the year. But nevertheless, yeah, that's not typically played at this time. So yeah, dude, and I would say, you know, even though there's not like a shit ton of rarities, you definitely have some nice ones in here, you know? I mean, the three big ones are Uva-La's only played 18 times total. And this is kind of like its heyday. Like Uva-La's played like a handful of times this year, 2002. And then it's really not played much until the reunion tour. And then also the other two, Now I'm Freakin Out, 93 times, and Don't Sweat It, 69. So those are like kind of the rare songs. So not super heavy on the rarities,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of jamming. A lot of jamming and a lot of rock and roll. So this is like a high energy show that really plows through the set list, but also has a lot of jamming out. So it's like they're in that auditorium and just feeding off that energy of that huge crowd and just rocking.
Yeah, man. Great show.
I would say maybe my top 10, maybe.
Okay.
Probably around, you know, as we're going through the years, you know, I'm sort of thinking about that, like trying to figure out how to rank some of them. And I think it might make top 10. This is a pretty good show, dude.
I would say it deserves to be up there. Yeah.
You know, if not top 10, close.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, you know, another notable thing on the show, this show features the old Diener's Tour Diary.
Right.
So, you know, and it's funny because this is all in that era of Ween just doing all sorts of different things, you know? They're like so busy. And this is the little thing, but it's such another example of that. It's just like, Diener's like, I'm going to have my tour diary online. You know, it's like another example of Ween doing cool shit online. Be interesting if I can find somewhere where they're all his Diener diary entries are all like in one list.
Yeah, I know. That would be cool.
But nevertheless, so it's fun to get in his insight on the venues. And that's what he says. He talks about how he says, usually we try and start a tour in a smallish bar or something. But this was a big ass auditorium. Something like 2,000 people came out. I have no idea how we went from playing the Be Here Now last year, which holds 350 people, to this place. One way or another, it was a pretty great way to kick off this short tour. After the show, we got drunk and shot pool at our hotel bar, which had a cover band playing lots of Skynyrd. Later on, some douchebag kid knocked on my hotel room door and said, "Yo, Dean, what was it like playing with those Nashville guys?" Like he had waited his whole life to fucking ask me that stupid shit and had to knock at 3 a.m. just to hear my answer.
Dude,
that's a raw deal, man. I'm sorry.
Whoever that kid is, he had fucking balls though, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, that's all you got? That's all you're going to say to Diener?
Yeah, 3 a.m. in the morning, that's all you got.
Oh man, that's crazy.
No, but I like that diary entry because it kind of gives you that, it tells you like the growth, you know? And that's been one of our themes, is how they are growing as a band. And part of that is going to bigger and bigger venues, you know?
Well, if you look at Brown Base, it has them down, like I just clicked on Asheville, and it has them going from, it has the Be Here Now, which they played in 98 and 2000. So it's not exactly just the year before that. It's 2000. And then this show, which is 2002.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, I mean, it still is something where that's a hell of a jump. And you're talking 2000, you know, for that particular time period. I mean, we saw them at 420. You know, that was probably like 1,000 people. We saw them at Electric Factory in Philadelphia. I mean, that's definitely way more than 350 people. So it's like, okay, time for them to graduate to something bigger in general for down there. So
yeah, dude,
it's cool.
And it's a theme. I mean, it's not like every venue's huge now, but they're starting to just more and more play bigger venues. They're becoming they're sort of borderline into that like stadium rock, you know what I mean? Like they're almost at that point where they're starting to get those big freaking venues, I mean, they did a Red Rock show in 2000, I think. And so that holds up to 9,000 some people. So that,
right.
It's like that's getting to be some pretty darn big. I mean, that's not like a Pink Floyd, Wembley Stadium in front of 60,000 people shit, but it's still getting pretty big.
Yeah, man. This has a pretty good bootleg. If you're listening on YouTube, we want to give a shout out to Boognish Bockwinkel, or just Bockwinkel, because this show is in its entirety on his channel.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the individual tracks broken up into a playlist on Boognish Monster. I think it's a really good sounding bootleg. I really do. I mean, I think it has, in my opinion, the thing that I listen for when you're talking about the older shows is, can you hear like the keyboard well?
Mm-hmm.
And in this show, you can definitely hear the keyboard. It has a nice, like, full-bodied sound to it.
The recording goes a long way to how you hear it, dude. I mean, we talked about with Fred in an interview with Fred.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, if you don't have this, if it's not set up properly, if the levels aren't right, people end up not being able to hear various instruments very well. Can really change how you feel about the entire experience.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So yeah, this is a good sounding bootleg. So it's definitely one to go back and check out.
Yeah, dude. Good times.
Absolutely.
But yeah, dude, I mean, if you got anything else to share, I think that wraps it up, dude. We don't need to belabor it. But rock and roll, it's a Brown show. People should go hear it.
Yeah. It's a great show from that time period. And I love that early 2000s era. I just think it's fucking tight.
Yeah, dude. In 2002 right now, like this little tour they're on, it's a pretty awesome moment in Ween history. Like they're definitely stringing together some good shows.
Yeah, man.
So anyway, everybody, we'll wrap this thing up. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, man. Join us and leave us a message for the summer contest. And yeah, we look forward to hitting up some more of these older shows and maybe some other surprises for the rest of the summer.
Yeah, dude. And check us out on Patreon as well, if I can just quick mention that. Because we're trying to put more and more stuff on there all the time. Shane's got his Ween vinyl series, and I started a new series called Rory Rambles On, where I have a chance to ramble on about some random Ween shit that I've got to talk about.
It's a lot of fun. All right. Sounds great. Peace, everybody. We love you.
All right. Peace, everybody. Later.